The Royal Academy. This is Paper 1, Unit 2, Part 3. In Research Aptitude, we are going to see today meaning and types of research. What is research? Research is a logical and systematic search for new and useful information on a particular topic. What is the objective of research? First one is to discover new facts, to verify and test important facts, to analyze an event or process or phenomenon, to identify the cause and effect relationship, to develop a new scientific tools, concepts and theories to solve and understand scientific and non-scientific problems, to find solutions to scientific and non-scientific and social problems, and to overcome or solve the problems occurring in our everyday life. In the first one, descriptive versus analytical research. Let us see. Descriptive research consists of surveys and facts finding inquiries of different types. The main objectives of descriptive research is to describe the state of affairs as it prevails at the time of the study. See, what is the descriptive research in the sense? To describe the state of affairs as it prevails at the time of the study. Okay. The next one, see, the term ex post facto research is quite often used for descriptive research studies in social sciences and business research. The most distinguishing feature of this method is that the researcher has no control over the variables here. Okay, this is the main point of this descriptive research. What is that? The researcher has no control over the variables. Okay, then he has to only report what is happening or what has happened. The majority of the ex post facto research projects are used for descriptive studies in which the researcher attempts to examine phenomena such as the consumer's preference, the frequency of purchases, shopping, etc. Despite the inability of the researchers to control the variables, ex post facto studies may also comprise attempts by them to discover the causes of the selected problem. The methods of research adopted in conducting descriptive research are survey methods of all kinds, including correlation and comparative methods. Okay, this is also very, very important. You have to keep in mind. The methods of research adopted conducting descriptive research are survey methods of all kinds, including correlation and comparative methods. Next point, if you see the analytical research, the researcher has to use the already available facts or information and analyze them to make a critical evaluation of the subject. So this is what the analytical research. What do you mean by analytical research? The researchers has to use the already available facts or information and analyze them to make a critical evaluation of the subject. Now, applied versus fundamental. What is applied research? Research can also be applied or fundamental. An attempt to find a solution to an immediate problem encountered by a firm, an industry, a business organization or society is known as applied research. So applied research is to find a solution to an immediate problem encountered by a firm, an industry, a business organization or society is known as applied research. Now, researchers engaged in such research aim at drawing certain conclusions confronting a concrete social or business problem. On the other hand, fundamental research mainly concerns the generalization and formulation of a theory. In other words, gathering knowledge for knowledge's sake is termed pure or basic research. This is by Young and Kothari, 1988. Researches relating to pure mathematics or concerning some natural phenomenon are instances of fundamental research. Likewise, studies focusing on human behavior also fall under the category of fundamental research. Okay. Now, thus, while the principal objective of an applied research is to find a solution to some pressing practical problem, the objective of a basic research is to find information with a broad base of application and add to the already existing organized body of scientific knowledge. Now, quantitative versus qualitative. What is quantitative? Quantitative research relates to aspects that can be quantified or can be expressed in terms of quantity. It involves the measurement of quantity or amount. Whereas various available statistical and economical methods are adapted for analysis in such research. This includes correlation, regression, and time series analysis. Okay. So various available statistical and economical methods are adapted for analysis in such research. This includes correlation, regressions, and time series analysis. On the other hand, qualitative research is concerned with qualitative phenomena, or more specifically the aspects related to or involving quality of kind. For example, an important type of qualitative research is motivation research. Okay, one of the example is motivation research, which indicates the reason for certain human behavior. The main aim of this type of research is to discover the understanding motives and desires of human being by using in-depth interviews. So when to use this? This to discover the underlying motives and desires of human being by using in-depth interviews. Okay. So the other techniques employed in such research are story completion test, sentence completion test, word association test, and other similar projective methods. Qualitative research is particularly significant in the context of behavioral sciences, which aim at discovering the underlying motives of human behavior. Such research helps to analyze the various factors that motivate human beings to behave in a certain manner, besides contributing to an understanding of what makes individuals like or dislike a particular thing. However, it is worth noting that conducting qualitative research in practice is considered a difficult task. Hence, while undertaking such research, seeking guidance from experienced expert researchers is important. Conceptual versus empirical. The research related to some abstract idea or theory is known as conceptual research. So conceptual research means the research related to some abstract idea or theory is known as conceptual research. Generally, the philosophers and thinkers use it for developing new concepts or for reinterpreting the existing ones. For that, we use the conceptual research. Empirical research, on the other hand, exclusively relies on observation or experience with hardly any regard for theory and system. Such research is data-based, which often comes up with conclusions that can be verified through experiments or observation. So, empirical researchers exclusively relies on observation or experiences with hardly any regard for theory and system. Such research is based on, or this research often comes up with conclusions that can be verified through experiments or observation. That is called as empirical research. Empirical research is also known as experimental type of research, in which it is important to first collect the facts and their sources and actively take steps to stimulate the production of desired information. In this type of research, the researcher first formulates a working hypothesis and then gathers sufficient facts to improve or disprove the stated hypothesis. Okay. So, she formulated the experimental design which according to him or her would manipulate the variables to obtain the desired information. This type of research is thus characterized by the researcher's control over the variables under study. In simple terms, empirical research is most appropriate when an attempt is made to prove that certain variables influence the other variable in some way. Therefore, the results obtained by using experimental or empirical studies are considered to be the most powerful evidence for a given hypothesis. Keep this in mind. The results obtained by using experimental or empirical studies are considered to be the most powerful evidence for a given hypothesis. Next, fundamental or basic research. What is fundamental or basic research? Let us see this. Basic research is an investigation of basic principles and reasons for the occurrence of a particular event or process or phenomenon. It's also called a theoretical research. The study or investigation of some natural phenomenon or relating to pure science is termed basic research. Basic research sometimes may not lead to immediate use or application. It is not concerned with solving any practical problems of immediate interest. But it is original or basic. It provides a systematic and deep insight into a problem and facilitates the extraction of scientific and logical explanations and conclusion on it. It helps build new frontiers of knowledge. The outcomes of basic research form the basis for much applied research. Researchers working on applied research have to make use of the outcomes of basic research and explore their utility of them. Research on improving a theory or a method is also referred to as fundamental research. For example, suppose a theory applies to a system provided the system satisfies certain specific conditions. Attempts to find answers to the following questions from basic research. Why are materials like that? What are they? How does a crystal melt? What is the sound produced when water is heated? Why do we feel difficult when walking on the seashore? Why are birds arranged them V-shape when flying in a group? Examples of fundamental basic research. All famous theorems of physics, all laws of mass and science we studied from childhood. Now next one, applied research. In applied research, one solves certain problem by employing well-known, accepted theories and principles. Most of the experimental research, case studies and interdisciplinary research are essentially applied research. Applied research is helpful for basic research. Research, the outcome of which has immediate application, is also termed as applied research. So this point keep in mind, the outcome of which has immediate application is also termed as applied research. Now, such research is of practical use to current activity. For example, research on social problems has immediate use. Okay. Applied research is concerned with actual life research, such as research on increasing efficiency of a machine, increasing gain factor of production of a material, pollution control, preparing vaccination for the disease, etc. They have immediate potential applications. Let us see the difference between fundamental research and applied research. So what is the purpose of the fundamental research? Expand knowledge of processes of business and management. Results in universal principles relating to the process and its relationship to outcomes. Findings of significance and value to society in general. Then what's the purpose of the applied research? Which improves understanding of particular business or management problem. See, compare this. This is expand the knowledge here, which improves the understanding of a particular business or management problem. Results in solution to the problem, new knowledge limited to problem, finding a practical relevance and value to the manager in an organization. Next one, context. Undertaken by people in universities, choice of topic and objectives determined by the researcher, flexible time scale. Whereas the applied research undertaken by people based in a variety of settings including organization and universities, objectives negotiated with the originated tight time scales. Okay, so these are the two differences of fundamental research and applied research. Now let us see the exploratory research design. The exploratory research design is known as the formative research design. The main objective of using such a research design to formulate a research problem for an in-depth or more precise investigation or for developing a working hypothesis from an operational aspect. So this design is to formulate a research problem for an in-depth or more precise investigation or for developing a working hypothesis from an operational aspect. Next one, see. The major purpose of such study is the discovery of ideas and insights. Therefore, such a research design is suitable for such a study should be flexible enough to provide the opportunity for considering different dimensions of the problem under study. The inbuilt flexibility in research design is required as the initial research problem would be transformed into a more precise one in the exploratory study, which in turn may necessitate changes in the research procedure for collecting relevant data. Usually, the following three methods are considered to the context of a research design for such studies. They are survey of related literature, experience survey, and analysis of insight stimulating instances. Next one, descriptive and diagnostic research design. A descriptive research design is concerned with describing the characteristics of a particular individual or a group. Meanwhile, a diagnostic research design determines the frequency with which a variable occurs or its relationship with another variables. In other words, the study analyzing whether a certain variable is associated with another comprises a diagnostic research study. On the other hand, a study that is concerned with specific predictions or with the narration of facts and characteristics related to an individual, group, or situation are instances of descriptive research studies. Now, hypothesis testing research design. Hypothesis testing research designs are those in which the researcher tests the hypothesis of the causal relationship between two or more variables. These studies require procedures that would not only decrease bias and enhance reliability, but also facilitate deriving inferences about the causality. Generally, experiments satisfy such requirements. Hence, when research design is discussed in such studies is often referred to the design of experiments. Now, dependent and independent variables. A magnitude that varies is known as a variable. In research, we have to have an understanding about the dependent and independent variables. These two variables are very, very important. Some of the variables act as a dependent and some are independent variables that what we select while doing the research. We design the research in that these variables should be, you have to understand what is dependent and what is independent variable before starting a research. A magnitude that varies is known as a variable. So what is variable? A magnitude that varies is known as a variable. The concept may assume different quantitative values like height, weight, income, etc. Qualitative variables are not quantifiable in the strictest sense of the term. However, the qualitative phenomena may also be quantified in terms of the presence or absence of the attributes considered. The phenomena that assume different values quantitatively even in decimal points are known as continuous variables. But all variables need not to be continuous. Values that can be expressed only in integer values are called non-continuous variables. In statistical terms, they are known as discrete variables. For example, age is a continuous variable, whereas the number of children is a non-continuous variable. When changes in one variable depending upon the changes in another variable or variables, it is known as a dependent or endogenous variable. And the variables that cause the changes in the dependent variable are known as independent or explanatory or exogenous variables. Okay, one should keep in mind, one is doing research should keep in mind that one variable depending upon the changes in another variable or variables, then it is known as a dependent or endogenous variable. Okay, and the variable that cause the changes in the dependent variable are known as the independent or explanatory or exogenous variable. Okay, so this point you have to keep in mind, what is dependent and what is independent. What is dependent? The variables, the changes in other variable. See, one variable depending upon the changes in the other variable or variables, it is known as dependent. Okay, what is independent? The variables that cause changes in the dependent variable, known as independent. Okay, now for example, if demands upon price, then demand is a dependent variable while price is the independent variable. And if more variables are determined demand, like income and price of the substitute commodity, then demand also depends upon them in addition to the price of the original commodity. In other words, the demand is a dependent variable that is determined by the independent variable like the price of the original commodity, income and price of substitutes. Now, exogenous variable. The independent variables which are not directly related to the purpose of the study but affect the dependent variables are known as exogenous variables. You have to keep this point is also in mind. What is exogenous variable? The independent variables which are not directly related to the purpose of the study but it affects the dependent variable. It affects the dependent variable, that is known as exogenous variable. Okay. Now, for instance, assume that the researcher wants to test the hypothesis that there is a relationship between children's school performance and their self-confidence, in which case the latter is an independent variable and the former a dependent variable. In this context, the intelligence may also influence school performance. However, since it is not directly related to the purpose of the study undertaken by the caused by exogenous variable or on the dependent variable is technically called experimental error. So what is called experimental error? It is not directly related to the purpose of the study or undertaken by the cause by the exogenous variable on the dependent variable, technically is called experimental error. Okay. Now, therefore, a research study should always be framed in such a manner that the influence of exogenous variables on the dependent variable are completely controlled and the influence of independent variable is evident. So this is Royal Academy, UGCNET 23, and this is my email ID. This is my number. So you can contact this Royal Academy. Thank you so much. So for further details, you can contact the Royal Academy for the further classes. Thank you. Thank you so much.